Waking up from some good rest, Alina Clover opened her window to a bright and shining morning, greeting a cat outside the window with a "good morning," then proceeded to get dressed and ready for the day. She was going to give today her best. She was a guild receptionist. It was just a desk job, a job she had taken knowing she'd be safe. As a civil servant, her finances were secure. And as long as she wore the cute uniform, guided adventurers with a smile, and completed her admin work leisurely, she could clock out on time. It's the job she's always dreamed of. Well, that's how it should have been anyway. But because the adventurers never seemed to finish the monsters, her overtime hell never seemed to end. As the next customer, known as a guild elite, approached, the people were in awe, except for Alina, who really wanted him to stop dragging his feet. He was taking the job of subduing the floor boss of the Belfra Underground Ruins, the Hellflame Dragon. Everyone was excited to see his party, Silver Sword, in action again. However, Alina was fixated on the fact they were taking too long to clear, in her opinion. She kindly asked him to show his second-class license, but the adventurer was a bit pompous, saying she should already know he had one without checking. Of course she did. She served adventurers like him every day. She remembered things about them even if she didn't want to. However, the law stated adventurers couldn't take on a quest without presenting their license. She switched from her angry thoughts to her happy customer service voice, telling him to prevent adventurers from risking their lives. Checking if the adventurer's class matches the dungeon's difficulty level was also the job of the receptionist. And so, Gons, the Raging Blade, showed his face, asking if that was enough. But still, Alina insisted on his license. He finally did, and she kindly thanked him. Now noticing the ridiculously long queue, she could tell there was still no end in sight. Long ago, on the continent of Helcatia, their ancestors received a blessing from the gods, known as Dia, and used the blessings to establish an extremely advanced civilization. However, one day, they suddenly disappeared. Monsters took over the entire continent in their place, making it incredibly dangerous. Then, 200 years ago, a group of people came to this continent, infiltrated the dungeon, fought monsters, and rebuilt human towns. They were adventurers. Among the reception halls of the Adventurers Guild, where Alina worked, a full counter was the largest. While most adventurers relaxed in the evenings, Alina was only halfway through filling out quest assignments and putting reports together. She just wanted to go home and relax, living a harmonious life. This was the opposite of that. She considered putting off her work until tomorrow. No, if she did that, it'd just keep piling up. She was determined to make tomorrow the day she'd clock out on time and enjoy some peace and quiet. She brazenly took a drink and got back to work. The reason why she had so much was because of that Hellflame Dragon. Monsters kept appearing because nobody could defeat it, and adventurers would continue to accept quests until the boss was dead. Because of that, she was stuck with reception duty for endless crowds all day, and all the other work had to be done at night. This was a hellscape. The Silver Sword did what they could to take on the Hellflame Dragon, but nothing they had worked to any extent. They were hitting a point where they needed to retreat. However, with a mysterious adventurer entering, the Silver Sword's leader, Jade, told them to run because it was dangerous. But this anonymous adventurer summoned a giant hammer, screaming about her overtime rage as she whacked the beast. She knocked it over from below with her fury. The dragon then flew up to breathe fire, which this adventurer avoided while cursing at it, and delivered a finishing blow. The Silver Sword party members were in awe, seeing this mysterious adventurer known as the Executioner solo the boss of a dungeon no one had conquered. But the only thing Alina cared about was finally being able to clock out on time. With her turning around, Jade was shocked to see her face. Reading an investigation report the next day, she realized she messed up, learning the guild wanted to retire Gons from the Silver Sword by seeking the individual fitting the description of the mysterious solo boss killer. Lila, Alina's coworker, asked if she had any idea who the great executioner might be, to which Alina denied, but Lila went on, calling the executioner the one who gallantly appeared to save people in trouble, leaving without even giving her name. And while Jade was very popular as well, she thought the executioner was way cooler. She believed if the executioner joined the Silver Sword, they'd be invincible. However, Alina wanted no part in that. If it got out that she'd been soloing bosses with a fake license, she'd be fired on the spot. Guild receptionists were public servants, so they couldn't have side jobs. Life security, great employee benefits, employment for life, and she got to go home at the same time every day, as long as there was no overtime. That's why she became a guild receptionist. She couldn't just let her life end now. At the Adventurers Guild headquarters, Jade was going through citizen cards trying to find the executioner. Lulu Lee couldn't believe it was a girl, and Lo added that the adventurer swung a massive hammer. But Jade, their leader, was positive the executioner was a girl with black hair and green eyes, who was quite young as well. The other two party members were insistent on finding an attacker to replace Gons right away. However, Jade just really wanted to find her. While shopping, Lo expressed how tired he was of shopping, wanting to go back to the inn and sleep. As he yawned, Lulu Lee stuffed his mouth with a delicious baked donut. Since they were so popular here, she really wanted to try. The two bantered a bit, and Lo explained he worked really hard, staying up late every night studying grimoires. She just ignored him to go pick out the apples. Elsewhere, Jade was looking at the relic he got from the dragon. These relics supposedly contained the techniques from their ancestors, a Dia skill, and granted power to those who used them. Any adventurer would die to have one. But the executioner didn't seem interested at all. He remembered her skills not being anything like the ones he and his party used. He wondered if her hammer was a Dia skill, but dismissed the idea. He swore to himself he would find her. A gust suddenly blew his way, and his jaw dropped, seeing a black-haired girl walking in front of him who had green eyes. He ran towards her, surprised to find out she was a guild receptionist. At work, Alina was happy to see not too many adventurers to deal with today. She loved when things were slow. Jade suddenly entered, greeting Alina, and now she was nervous, wondering why the leader of Silver Sword was standing before her. Perhaps looking for the executioner? She thought there was no way he found out, since she covered her face and her adventurer's license was also under a fake name. He questioned her about the mysterious adventurer he had met in the ruins wielding the hammer, and told her he'd been looking for that person, and that Alina knew who that was. She jolted, apologizing while responding she had no idea. He then brought up that his vision and sense of smell were top-notch. He could even see well in dark places. That's how he saw her face. This guy was driving her crazy. She hid her face under her hood, and it was so dark in the dungeon. She thought there's no way he'd have seen her face. He teased her with the fact he wasn't expecting her to be a receptionist. The death bell tolled. Her life as a receptionist was over. No, this was a stable and safe job. She wasn't going to give up like this. She smiled, turning towards him, telling him this wasn't a good place to talk. So, they moved to the back alleyway, where he offered her the loot from that day. She described to him that relics were said to be far more durable and stronger than regular drops. Destroying it with her grip in front of him, he began sweating bullets. She made it clear she wanted to live a peaceful life as a receptionist. That's why she wouldn't let anyone get in her way. And if he didn't want to get obliterated like that dragon, he needed to get lost. Walking away from Jade, he suddenly stopped her using Guardian of the Iron Wall. It was a skill that hardened anything he touched. As the leader of Silver Sword, he couldn't ignore the power of the executioner no matter what. But her response was to summon her hammer and try to smash him. She wasn't going to let her receptionist life end like this. She would kill him to keep her peaceful life. He told her to wait, mentioning her hammer was a Dia skill. She didn't know what that was, so he explained it was a skill stronger than the highest level ones used in modern times. He suddenly told her, "I want you, Miss Alina," and she replied she'd sue him for sexual harassment and power abuse. He backed away again, telling her the sight of her fighting the dragon hadn't left his mind. He really wanted her to join. He questioned why, if she just wanted a peaceful life as a receptionist, did she defeat the dragon? So, she broke it down for him. Overtime was the despair of facing an endless mountain of documents she could never seem to finish. She often had an intense urge to kill when more work got shoved onto her when she was swamped. To cut down on overtime, she had to work overtime to make manuals just to cut down on overtime. Jade apologized for not understanding. She then added his guildmate's dawdling was the very reason she had to work overtime. That's why she had to put an end to it herself. He then told her if she joined Silver Sword, the benefit would be she wouldn't have to work overtime anymore. But no, she wasn't interested. and if he told anyone, he was dead meat. For her, she was content as long as she could spend every day peacefully and happily, and go home on time. She then noticed a man shouting at her coworker, demanding Lila give him the secret quest. Oh man, was this another case of overtime? Alina walked up to the first-class adventurer, Slade Ghost, to assure him their counter didn't handle the so-called secret quest. However, he was spotted by calling her arrogant and not believing her. This angered Alina, who, as a receptionist, was just trying to do her job, and the idea of a secret quest was just a ridiculous rumor among adventurers. She maintained her composure, reminding him all requests that exist are posted on the guild quest board, causing him to slam his fist and get angry. Man, she really wanted to beat him up and be done with it. He then grabbed her by the shirt, feeling indignant by her treatment because he was a respected adventurer, but then proceeded to get interrupted by Jade. Slay tried to attack the Silver Sword leader, but Jade showed Slay that he was no match for him. Jade then told him if he laid a hand on the receptionist again, he wouldn't be let off the hook as easily. Slay then ran off, giving the classic, "I'll get you for this," as he scurried away. Jade then went to check on Alina, who was perfectly fine, and giving him a sinister look, she asked what brought him here today. He shuddered back, somewhat nervously, squeaking out that he was just passing by, before running off and giving his goodbyes. That morning, Alina happily opened her window as usual, but remembering Jade knew her secret, she felt in order to shut him up, she needed to make him suffer a bit. But realizing if she did that to such a big shot like Jade, she'd still be fired in the end. She moped into her pillow, whining, "I'm so done. I just want to do nothing. I want to escape from reality. How I wish I could lounge around at home forever." Then, she remembered she was able to get the loan for this house because she was a receptionist with a safe job and a high credit score. She found herself reinvigorated again, believing she worked the best job and she'd never get fired. During lunch break, Alina was annoyed having seen Jade loitering around the quest counter all day. She wondered if he was trying to piss her off. And of course, he came by, making small talk about how nice her secluded lunch spot was. However, this would be met with her activating her skill and taking an offensive stance. She didn't care if he didn't come to bother her. It was finally her lunch break, yet he was interrupting again. He disarmed her by simply asking when her Dia skill manifested, because as of now, no one had knowledge of what it took to manifest skills. He felt it was a waste of talent for her to work as a guild receptionist given her power. Instead of answering him though, she just told him it was useless of him to hang around her workplace, because she'd never joined Silver Sword. She wondered why God made a receptionist manifest a skill of this level. 2 years ago, Efol's annual Centennial Festival was being held for 3 days and 3 nights, as always. But since Alina had just become a guild receptionist, she wasn't used to the job yet, and was working overtime every day. On a particular night, she was so tired and wanted to enjoy the festival. They say the one who wished the most fervently during the Centennial Festival was granted Dia's blessing. So, she asked God to save her from overtime work forever, sighing, because wishes were meaningless. Eventually, she'd finally finish and be able to run to check out the festival for a bit. However, she'd find the festival square was empty, closed, over. It was never enough, even though she worked her hardest. She wondered why she was the only one who missed it. The guild that pays out the rewards, the useless adventurers who couldn't even beat a boss. She hated everything that made her work overtime. She'd take anything at this point to get out of working late. She wanted great power to get rid of it all. Then suddenly, a magic circle appeared beneath her feet. At that very square, Slay was grumbling that he'd only feel better once he knocked that receptionist into next year. And now seeing some adventurers had brought back a raid boss, he had an idea of how he could get revenge. Meanwhile, Jade was wondering how he could get Alina to give him the time of day. No. Just to join Silver Sword. Nothing romantic, right? But noticing the town was now shaking, Slay was causing havoc using the raid boss. Jade acted quickly, using a skill to attract the monster's aggro towards him, giving the innocent bystanders time to escape. The adventurers who captured the monster explained the raid boss they had put to sleep to farm materials suddenly went berserk. Slay was cocky, doing the most stereotypically villainous thing by announcing his skill allowed him to control monsters who were sleeping. And now, he was going to crush this entire city, especially Jade and that irritating receptionist. Jade tried to brace himself by using Sigurd's wall, and took the raid boss's attack head on. All the while, Alina was raging doing paperwork that her boss suddenly told her she needed to finish by the end of the day. But hearing the monster outside only made things worse. She wasn't surprised the town chaos was being caused by Slay. It's the usual suspect, a complainer who never listened to others. Then, seeing the monster launch a boulder in the direction of her home, she ran, praying that you'd like this video and subscribe to my channel. Why? Well, here at My Shoujo Weekly, I've got plenty of stories involving the spunkiest of female protagonists. You'll find action, you'll find romance, you'll find comedy, sometimes. So come on, hit that subscribe, I'll be your guy. Alina was horrified, finding the rock launched directly and only destroying her house. She still had 30 years left on the mortgage. Now she was angry and ready to kill Slay. Jade was out of options, until Alina came down, instantly lopping off one of the monster's arms. Slay was flabbergasted, but became eager, knowing since the guild had been looking for the executioner, he could piss them off by killing her. However, she began to grumble in anger over him taking away her only comfort. Her house was the one comfort she had when she was exhausted from work. Her oasis in modern society, her personal heaven. So in kind, she was going to reward him with death for destroying her paradise. Slay tried to retaliate, but couldn't withstand the might of Alina smashing the monster down the center. He then pleaded for the executioner to stay away from him as she walked closer, smashing furiously in the spot right next to him. Afterwards, Jade tried to console the depressed Alina. He got flustered, offering her to stay at his place for the night. But she told him to stop joking, because she was obviously going to stay at an inn, but knew she now had to work overtime to make up the financial burden. Back at the square, the guildmaster, Glenn Gallia, went to investigate what had happened during the earlier attack. So, he activated his Sigurd's Chronos skill. On a late night at E-Full counter, Alina was stuck doing overtime, despite her house being on her mind. She cursed Slay and all of his descendants. Jade didn't know what to say at this point, so he told her to cheer up. And even though Alina told him to buzz off, he was here to help, just in case. She continued to play ambivalent, but knew since Jade was a high-ranking guild official, he had a right to be in the office anytime he wanted. He tried to suggest that it was a good time for them to call it a night, so she explained that while there had been times she wasn't feeling up to working, she would save the unfinished work for a day she felt more motivated. But then, she realized tomorrow Alina would have to deal with today Alina's laziness. And there was never going to be a day where she had a single speck of motivation to work overtime. So, her creed was to always finish her work for the day in order to clock out on time tomorrow. Jade couldn't tell if she was motivated or not, but handed her his stack that he just finished. She was astonished to find he processed all the work correctly. Was he perhaps the capable type that could do anything right the first time with minimal instruction? Alina was jealous, knowing she was the clumsy type that had to step on every landmine and make every mistake before learning anything. He pissed her off. She spent 3 years enduring pain and tears, and he just popped in and skipped over all that like it was nothing. People like him pissed her off more than anything. She wondered why the world was so unfair, but he assured her she was just a good teacher. He tried to offer to finish all the work in her stead, but that only made her more upset because her pride as a receptionist wouldn't let her get away with that. To this, he then tried to cheer her up with sweets. Instead, finding the relic she had crushed the other day, and it had something written on it. Quest order. It began to glow, displaying a request that read, Location, the Chalk Tower. Completion criteria, defeat all 4 bosses. Acceptance of this quest is recognized per the terms outlined above. The two had never heard of the Chalk Tower, but Alina wanted no involvement in the request whatsoever. So, he was going to look into it himself. The next day, Alina stared in horror, finding she was in the newspaper again. Lila was bright and ecstatic, questioning Alina on if she was an executioner stan. Lila wanted to know if Alina was a Jade stan or an executioner stan. Or maybe you're a ComfyTea stan. Subscribe. Right now, the executioner was every bit as popular as Jade. and Lila happened to be an executioner stand. She believed it was obvious there was a hot guy under that hood. He was the hero who saved Ifol, and he never revealed himself, even though there was a bounty to be claimed. She thought he was so cool. She wished he'd hit her with that big hammer. She meant protector. Stop it. Get some help. Lila gushed over the fact that the executioner worked with Jade. So, the strongest, hottest tank, and the strongest, hottest attacker. The fantasies were a bit much, but Alina was fine with it all since they made Lila happy. Everyone was surprised to see the guildmaster entering later that afternoon, and Alina wondered why he happened to be coming her way. He exchanged pleasantries, asking if she was familiar with his skill. So she nervously answered that his Sigurd Chronos skill stopped time in a location and allowed him to observe events of the past. He belted a laugh, as she now realized he likely turned back time at the town square, seeing the executioner's face. He then whispered they shouldn't talk here, and told her to come to guild headquarters. And it was there she sat in the fetal position, depressed over the fact she'd been found out and would likely be fired. Jade tried to assure her the guild master was nicer than he looked, and she replied, "Shut up, tattletale." She then told Jade she hated him, hoping he stubbed his pinky toe on a dresser then died. He couldn't believe it. She had called him shit and told him to die and go away, but thinking she didn't hate him was the one saving grace he had. However, Lulu Lee pointed out she likely hated him from the beginning, which Lo had to interrupt, telling her not to kick a man when he was down. After all, men in love were sensitive beings. Lulu Lee couldn't believe Jade, the man who wouldn't even look twice at any cute girl who threw themselves onto him, was actually in love. The meeting time with Glenn eventually came, where he expressed his surprise to learn the executioner was just an ordinary guild receptionist. He smirked, then drew his blade, challenging her to a duel. His wager? If he wins, she joins Silver Sword. If she wins, he promises the guild will stay out of the executioner's business no matter what happens, and he'd guarantee she'd keep her receptionist job. That was all it took for Alina to draw her weapon. Lo and Lulu Lee took note of Alina's white magic sigil and gigantic warhammer, confirming right before them stood the executioner. Alina was thankful Glenn was settling this through a bout of strength, because for her peaceful life, she was going to kill him. To this, he'd quickly respond with Sigurd Chronos. Time went to a standstill as he laughed, comparing Alina to more of a wrathful deity than an executioner, or perhaps even more powerful than some dark god. However, he wasn't expecting for his skill to shatter from Alina breaking through. She didn't quite know what happened, so he explained this observation room as a space divided by the flow of time. Normally, he should be the only one able to move within it. He let out a belly laugh, admitting his loss and unfreezing time-space. Back at the headquarters office, he explained only wanting to challenge her to confirm the true nature of her skill. Glenn's secretary broke down the hierarchy. Region skills were at the bottom, then proceeded Sigurd's skills, and at the pinnacle were Dia's skills. Logically speaking, a skill on a higher tier could easily crush any skills ranked below. Alina's response to this news was lackluster, not really paying mind to the fact she possessed a legendary skill to instead get up and leave while reminding him he promised not to bother her anymore. Reaching the exit, she stopped with Glenn bringing up the chalk tower. After looking into it, he discovered it was in fact a new dungeon, and the request form that appeared in the relic from earlier was precisely a secret quest hidden by the ancients. Alina started to grab and shake Glenn's collar over this. She panicked, knowing with a new dungeon, the number of quests were going to skyrocket, and she was going to be the one stuck with all the paperwork. She shouted, hating the idea of being stuck working overtime until the dungeon was cleared. The guildmaster was flabbergasted, getting confirmation from Jade that Alina was using her identity as the executioner to take down bosses only because she didn't want to work overtime. Moving what he thought to be a ridiculous notion aside, he offered a handsome sum for her to help clear the dungeon, only to receive an adamant no from her in response. She scolded the guildmaster for trying to break his promise, then tried to leave once more. However, he then offered her something she couldn't refuse. If she helped, he doubled the number of receptionists at Eiffel counter. She could hardly believe it, so she had him repeat what he said. She thought, double the number? In other words, no matter how busy we get from now on, we can tackle it with sheer numbers and create an ideal work environment without the need for overtime. Finally! My dream of going home on time every day is coming true. She accepted the offer, bringing joyous gasps to Glenn and Jade. But she was indeed serious about having the master keep his promise to make sure she'd never have overtime again. The next morning, at the luxurious Silver Sword Inn, Alina woke up as if she couldn't remember sleeping here. This place was a little too extravagant. All the furniture was high-end, and the bed was so soft and comfy. She thought of indulging in just a little more sleep, which got ruined by the sound of Jade knocking at her door. On their trek to the new dungeon, she formally met Lulu Lee, the white mage healer, and Lo, the black mage backline offense. Receiving Alina's business card, Lulu Lee was astonished to see she was a working adult, and as they took off, Alina let off a big sigh. She was a little down, considering she took paid leave to come today. Jade didn't think it was a big deal, since it was just one less day, causing her to take offense, claiming PTO was a reward for working adults, shaking him because she felt PTO was as precious as human rights. Arriving at the Chalk Tower, Jade explains the guild was currently imposing information control, such that only first-class licensed card holders could take on a quest here. He then gave her a guiding crystal shard, a relic all Silver Sword members had. When the owner is on the verge of death, the crystal shard will alert other allies. Lo then brought up how she could make big bucks selling it, causing Lulu Lee to smack him, as the crystal shards were supposed to be their proof of camaraderie as Silver Sword members. He was just joking though. Since it was the first time Alina had joined a party, Jade detailed her on battle formation. As tank, he'd draw aggro first. Reaching the first floor room, he took a wary stance in preparation for a fearsome werewolf. It was as big as a floor boss. Jade dashed, getting to work using his aggro drawing skill and subsequently casting Sigurd's Wall. The attacking werewolf got deflected back, giving an opening for Alina to take the beast out with a single smack. Jade and Lo were nervous, seeing they were just chopped liver before this one-woman army. However, Lulu Lee was amazed, making Alina a little flustered. Making it to the end of the first floor, the party was surprised they hadn't come across a floor boss the entire way. Perhaps this was something exclusive to secret quests. Alina wondered why the ancients who built this dungeon had suddenly disappeared. Lulu responded with her theory that the ancients were too obsessed with power to the point that it angered the gods who wiped them out. Still unconfirmed though. Advancing the second floor, the party heard screams, whereupon entering the next room, they found bloodied bodies that Lulu tried to heal, but they were already dead. This shook Alina at her core, and reminded her of someone important she had lost as a child. Jade had to shake her out of her daze, telling her it was better if she didn't look. He commented on the idea of an abnormally powerful monster, since it had pierced the tank's shield and killed him in one blow. They then found Rufus, the leader of a party ranked right below theirs, detailing the humanoid monster who defeated his party. The monster even used a skill. Suddenly, a bat monster came screeching toward them, and Alina defeated it with a single stroke. Rufus, now realizing they were partying with the executioner, let off a maniacal laugh, switching to an accusatory tone as he stated, "You're with that monster, aren't you?" He cited the monster casted using a white magic sigil just like she did, and called her a monster as well. Back at headquarters, Jade filled Glenn in about the monster that could use Dia skills. The master wanted to put clearing the Chalk Tower on hold, until Rufus entered, telling them to stop being cowardly. What pissed him off most was the executioner was in Silver Sword when he wasn't. Even though he believed himself to be the most suitable, he blackmailed Jade by threatening to tell the townsfolk the executioner was actually a monster, which Jade knew about and had been keeping a secret. He wanted Jade to kick her out of Silver Sword and take him to the Chalk Tower on the next expedition. Rufus's aim? The relic. A skull-faced man had told him a relic that grants a Dia skill rested in the deepest part of the dungeon, and now knew Jade could not refuse his request. So later that night, Jade told Alina he'd be taking Rufus, and she could go back to work as a receptionist. She wanted to make sure she heard him right, and that he wasn't going to ask her to clear another dungeon after this, while keeping his promise to add more receptionists and eliminate her overtime. Hearing him confirm, she felt unsettled by his unnatural reaction. but accepted it was none of her business. Regardless, with this being her last day at the inn, she had to pack her things and told him to leave promptly. He smiled, hearing her usual no-nonsense attitude. He was also surprised to see her in casual clothing, but Alina wasn't some wage slave to the extent of wearing her uniform on off days. Jade felt lucky to see her in casual clothes, actually making her blush and get shy. As he took his leave, she asked if he was certain he'd be fine, knowing the potential danger of the Dia-skilled monster and his lack of power. However, he knew that even if they couldn't defeat it, he had to do what the top brass told him to. Alina gasped, hearing this, but he assured her they'd just run if it got too hard. Exiting, she saw the man she'd lost once more. Mr. Shroud was an adventurer she admired serving at the local tavern. She used to love hearing his dungeon-crawling stories all the time, because it was her dream to become an invincible adventurer when she was grown up. However, he believed instead of risking her life, she'd work a safe and stable job as a receptionist. But no, she wanted to take quests on with him. They pinky promised on this dream of hers. He was a man of his words. The day came, however, when his corpse was brought back to town. She wanted him to stop fooling around and get up, because they made a promise. She wept as hard as she could, knowing their promise would never come to fruition. That dream left tears in her eyes as she woke up. She hadn't had that dream in such a long time. Getting ready for work, she looked at the crystal shard, wishing the silver sword safety on their quest. At the chalk tower, Jade was exhausted using Sigurd's beast so continuously in order to detect monsters. Rufus mocked him, but Jade assured them he was fine. They reached the last room on the 4th floor, where entering, he drew his sword at the scent of blood. The party advanced with trepidation. Then calling for Lo to brighten the room, they saw the corpse of a monster fall and dissipate. But behind it was the beast they'd heard about. He announced himself as neither monster nor human, but dark god Sila. Sila casted Dia's storm, bringing out his deadly spear, and Jade reacted quickly to counter the spear toss. Finding his shield was cracked from the attack, they were going to retreat, but Rufus casted Sigurd's prisoner, locking the Silver Sword members for his nefarious scheme. He had heard if the Dark God was fed human souls, the seal would be broken. Jade then put 2 and 2 together. Rufus had killed his own party members to revive the Dark God, and now he was going to use the Silver Sword's souls as catalysts to obtain a Dia skill. Rufus laughed, but not for long, with Sila piercing him immediately in the back. Sila simply devoured all who appeared in his line of sight. Consuming Rufus's soul, the Dark God noted its disgusting taste, as Rufus had a lowly, despicable, and filthy soul. But now, he wanted to know what the rest of their souls tasted like. Wrapping up with another customer at the reception desk, Alina stared at the crystal shard Jade gave her, thinking about the night he visited her room to tell her he was going to continue climbing the Chalk Tower dungeon, despite its dangers. She worried he wasn't going to be alright, but decided not to think about it to instead focus on work. Jade wasn't sure what to do. Their Sigurd skills alone couldn't defeat a dark god. Lo tried shooting a flaming serpent, but Sila cut it down immediately. Lulu Lee casted a regenerative buff on Jade, the best they could do since his shield couldn't completely protect him from Sila's spear. Sila took notice of the healing skill and decided he wanted it for himself. Casting Dia Drain, he summoned a mirror that flashed a light on Lulu Lee, where afterwards, her staff had disappeared. Appearing in front of Sila, he had no use for it, promptly snapping it. Lulu Lee was distraught. Her skills wouldn't activate. The boys then spotted the Dia mark on Sila's neck, and surmised Sila was also a relic himself created by the ancients. Sila then casted Dia Judge, summoning swords in the air. Jade knew his friends would die from a single shot, and needed to cover and get them out of here. He challenged the god to a face-off, making Sila chuckle. Then, took on the aggro of the swords using Sigurd's blood. Lulu Lee was concerned about him. She didn't want Jade to sacrifice himself. Sila then shot a single sword that shattered a big portion of Jade's shield, leaving him bloodied and barely standing. However, Jade egged Sila on, letting the god know he'd been trained by Alina every day and was pretty tough. Jade then turned back, shouting at Lo to run, who could barely swallow the tough choice his leader was calling for. Sila then fired at Jade's knee, and that's when Lo followed the order, grabbing Lulu Lee and sprinting off much to her dismay. Sila taunted Jade some more. However, as the leader of Silver Sword and the tank, he was going to fulfill his duty as a meat shield for his companions. Jade's unwillingness to waver only excited Sila more. Outside, Lulu was screaming at Lo for leaving Jade behind, and he shouted back, reminding her that there was no way they could help. Jade risked his life to secure them this chance to escape. She fell to her knees, despairing and accepting Jade's death was inevitable. However, the two couldn't lament for long with the arrival of a gigantic beast that immediately attacked. In the evening, Lila was whining about the overtime work they were stuck with. Even though they were almost there, Lila needed some wings. So, Alina handed one of her potions over, and after a drink, the two were revitalized. Lila then brought up how sad she was that the guild gave up trying to find the executioner. She really wanted to see her hero integrate into Silver Sword. She then noticed Alina's pocket was glowing, and with Alina pulling out the crystal shard, Lila thought it was so pretty. This reminded Alina of what Jade had said about the relic. It would only glow when one of the party members was on the verge of death. Alina got flashbacks to her traumatic past. She slammed the table, running out as fast as she could. Meanwhile, Sila was continuing his bout with Jade. Jade knew he was probably going to die here. If he said he didn't hate the displeased look on Alina's face, he wondered if she'd hit him with her warhammer. Ever since he saw her in the depths of the dungeon, he'd been hopelessly in love with Alina. The way she seemed mature at first glance, but was actually more childish than anyone. The way she tried to solve everything troublesome by force. And when she went to work, that dead-eyed look of hers. That scared expression she made when she was angry. That refreshed look when she clocks out on time. He wished to live just a bit longer to see her some more. He made a serious declaration, shouting that Sila's attacks didn't hurt at all compared to Alina's hammer. Alina rushed to the guild headquarters' crystal gate, getting obstructed by the guards. She hesitated, knowing if she revealed her secret here, she'd be fired for real this time. But in this moment, she realized something. Adventurers were bound to die eventually anyway. It was their fault for choosing such a risky lifestyle. She was different, becoming a receptionist to avoid risks. She had tireless nights of overtime that she always pushed through. Why should she give up her safe, secure, stable life as a receptionist for them? She wasn't obligated to save anyone. But, with the shard shining once more, she summoned her hammer. There was no turning back. She knew she was a total fool right now, telling the guards to get out of her way or she'd send them flying. Back inside the dungeon, Lo was a bloody mess, getting tossed like a ragdoll by the monster. Lulu ran to him, completely hopeless since her staff and skills had been taken away. He told her to run, but she wouldn't. She was more than prepared to die with her fellow party members. But, with Alina suddenly crashing into the monster with her hammer, she wouldn't need to. They were saved in the nick of time. Lulu begged Alina to save their leader, and they relayed everything they knew about the Dark God in a brief explanation. Alina made her way into the boss room, running over to the unconscious Jade. She was distraught seeing his bloodied and tattered body. She begged him to speak, answer, confirm he was alive. But seeing a spear flying her way, she dodged, coming face to face with Sila. He taunted Alina, telling her Jade had already met his end. But their battle was enjoyable at the very least. She was furious. Summoning her hammer, she smacked the Dark God, crashing him into a pillar. He was surprised to find someone had a skill of equal level to his own, but more than ready to retaliate, firing a sword storm at her. She did her best to deal with it, but quickly got cut down. A final sword was about to end her, when Jade suddenly saved her with his last bit of shield. This gave her time to strike Sila with the spiked tip of her hammer, leaving a gash. Running to Jade's side, he explained he fell asleep hearing the dangerous sound emitted from her warhammer swing. Now that he could hear her voice, he wasn't going to let himself die here. Alina cried tears of relief, and that's when he went in for a hug, leaving her flushed. She got him off, offering her potion that she drank a little to help with overtime. He was ecstatic about the idea of an indirect kiss and gladly accepted. The battle wasn't over though, as Sila came out, wound healing completely due to Lulu's skill. They needed to finish him off in one shot to prevent the regenerative properties. Sila was confident there was no way they could win, as he had devoured all the foolish humans who created him in the first place. He wiped out the ancients, principled by the idea of survival of the fittest. Summoning his blades to surround them, Jade decided he would be a human shield for Alina to let her run away. She refused though, smacking the swords away, dodging them and weaving through, but still getting knocked out of the air. She swore one day she'd live her ideal, peaceful life, work leisurely, leave work on time every day, and watch everyone come back safe and sound. She powered up, determined to bring them all back even if it killed her. She knocked the Dark God back, and out of desperation, he summoned all the swords he could to surround her and had them all attack. But she broke free with few scratches, dashing behind him, striking his arm off, then his entire body. Jade couldn't believe it. Sila gave his final words, expressing the omnipotence of dark gods. He was still cocky, saying it wasn't over. The second or third dark god would be coming to avenge him. However, Alina shut him up with one final smack. She wasn't going to listen to his monologue and extend her overtime. Exiting the dungeon, Lulu and Lo were relieved to see they had returned safely, all thanks to Alina. She got embarrassed, reminding them she had to work overtime again tomorrow because of this. But that was fine, as long as they were alive. A few weeks later, Lulu was able to regain her skills back, so she treated Jade and Lo, who were severely injured, and the guildmaster placed a gag order on the guards. That way, they couldn't speak on Alina's secret, thus allowing her to keep her job with no issues. She returned to her normal life of working overtime every day, whining over the late nights just like before. It was still better than the people she cared for being dead. Unfortunately though, she had to deal with Jade, who despite still recovering, was energetic enough to help her with her work thanks to what he called the bottle of love-filled magic that Miss Alina had drunk halfway. She smacked some sense into him, but still accepted his help. After a successful morning shift, Alina considered getting the recently raved about stewed hamburger steak for lunch. However, with an adventurer scurrying to the door, relieved believing he had made it just before closing, she was upset because he definitely didn't. He pushed it, telling her he had an urgent quest to accept, saying if it was her, it was fine if he were a little late. Hearing this, she wanted him to die. She started fighting with herself. Her angel said she should accept it, while her devil told her there was no need to be nice, especially since this would be taking a cut from her extremely precious lunch break. Which this guy only made worse by saying he was in a hurry because he was also on lunch break. She took a deep breath, putting on her cheery customer service voice, responding that she'd take his request. In the break room, she munched on her sandwich furiously, grumbling that the guy deserved to die. Lila wondered why she didn't just decline, to which Alina replied that if the guy complained, she'd have more work to do because of that. Aside from that, she was working so hard for the Centennial Festival. The 3-day festival she was too busy working overtime the past 2 years to make. This year, no matter what, she wanted to clock out on time. Lila was shocked, since this would be her first year working up to the festival. Learning the quests offered more rewards than usual, they'd be extra busy. The adventurers would be flocking to Eiffel Counter in droves. Alina dropped a big stack of papers that outlined trends and countermeasures for this busy time of year, and then presented the schedule and guide for the Centennial Festival. On the first and second days, she wanted to eat while walking around. Then, on the third day, enjoy the main event, the Soul's Rest ceremony. Alina was going to do whatever it takes to clock out on time and have fun. At the Silver Sword Inn, Lulu plucked a streaming mandragora with earmuffs on. She crushed it, brewing an interesting concoction. In Lo's room, he nearly landed all his daggers at the bullseye. Not quite at his best yet, though. Lulu came in, screaming he shouldn't be moving yet. Otherwise, he'd reopen his wounds. His ribs broke and pierced into his lungs. She just wanted him to rest properly. Then, offering him her potion, he expressed immense anxiety. He hurriedly chugged it down, and with taste aside, he felt a little more energetic. Meanwhile, Alina was enjoying the fact that she finally got off work on time. Seeing the cake shop was still open was something only winners could enjoy. She stared at the cakes through the glass, pointing out all the cakes she wanted for her buying spree. This was a luxury only a working adult could enjoy. Spotting the last strawberry tart, she and Lulu coincidentally pointed at it at the same time. Enjoying the treats outside, Lulu apologized for taking the last tart, but this was no problem for Alina. Lulu then suddenly blurted out she could see why Jade was in love with her, causing Alina to choke on her cake. Alina didn't know how to react. They chatted about this shop being the best in all of Eiffel. Lulu wanted to bring back Lo's favorite grape jelly to him. She started to express her feelings of inadequacy when it came to being Silver Sword's main healer. The reason Jade and Lo were alive was all thanks to Alina coming to their aid. But still, Alina did not take any credit. She was such a pleasant person. Leaving the shop, Jade thanked Alina for being so nice to Lulu. She was annoyed. wondering if he'd seen everything, but he brushed that aside. He was wondering why she hadn't visited him while he was recovering. He teased her for moving out of the inn so quickly as well, telling her he felt lonely. But to this, she told him she felt most comfortable in her house. So grateful that the guild paid for its repair, the two continued to banter back and forth, with Jade playing the part of a guy who was trying to get at her, while she constantly put him off. Unbeknownst to Lulu walking home in the evening though, a mysterious man watched her. We moved to 10 days before the festival. Alina is fired up to get things all ready. Lila wondered if Alina had a lover to enjoy the festival with, since it must be a super classic dating event. Alina wasn't sure how though. Hearing this, Lila became shocked and depressed. The festival always had a lot of lovers doing lovey-dovey stuff. She couldn't believe Alina was planning on going alone. Was this the ultimate fate of an overtime maniac? Lila would love to go with Alina, however, she already had a date that day. It was with Lord Executioner, a statement that made Alina slam her head onto the floor and writhe in pain. Alina wondered if her coworker was getting tricked, but turns out, Lila was going to the festival with her Executioner doll. Brushing off Lila's ridiculousness, the two started hearing the raging customers outside. After taking care of the paperwork, the two were defeated. How could this be happening when the bonus period hadn't begun yet? To investigate what was happening, Alina decided to step out for a bit. She wasn't abandoning her fellow coworkers, but she needed to do something about this abnormality first. She couldn't let this work drag on up to the Centennial Festival. She'd fix this over her dead body. During a practice session, Silver Sword was training one of their newest members, Sybil. He made a swift cut into the werewolf monster, earning the praise from the fellow party mates. However, he got caught off guard, receiving a direct slash from the monster. Lulu went to heal Sybil, but started experiencing PTSD before fixing him up. Jade noticed her judgment seemed slower than usual. Sybil got up quickly, fired up to fight, ignoring Jade's warnings not to lose his temper. This unfortunately got his sword stuck in the beast's claws, causing him to lose it and get disarmed. Luckily, Alina arrived in the nick of time to finish the monster in a single smash. The attack was so intense, it actually destroyed the hologram device they were using for the training. Alina didn't care though. She was here to ask Jade something important, dragging him away like she was walking a dog. Sybil was humbly put to tears, having watched the executioner finish the monster in a single stroke. While he was cocky after only getting one slash in, he felt like he couldn't uphold being a Silver Sword member with his current power, so he ran off to get stronger. Looks like they have to find a new attacker again. In the master's office, Alina was trying to ascertain why the adventurers were swarming for requests. Glenn apologized, bringing up the recent rumor that the secret quest granted adventurers Dia skills. The rumor had become widespread. Alina couldn't believe it, but this made sense with so many people who would do anything to obtain a Dia skill. To deal with E-Full Counter's issue, the guild was going to make an official announcement tomorrow that the secret quest was fabricated. Jade was going to do his best to deal with this. He later met with Lulu, discussing her hesitant movements from earlier. She made the excuse that her hesitancy was due to having never teamed up with a greatsword user before. But Lo's theory was that her current staff wasn't right for her, ever since she lost the one the Dark God destroyed. That's why Lo brought her a gift he and Jade bought together, a staff crafted based on the staff she previously used. The two valued Lulu. They were so thankful she nursed them back to health, and she was grateful towards them as well. A heartwarming moment. Later, Glenn explained the person who spread the rumor seemed to have a lot in common with Rufus. The Silver Sword crew didn't think it was a coincidence. However, the last rumor did not bring forth a relic, instead, reviving a Dark God. So the goal of this person spreading the rumor must be to revive another Dark God, which can only be brought back by devouring human souls. Alina interjected, asking why they were all gathered here. Glenn apologized, since stuff like secret quests and the Dark God wasn't something they could discuss at the guild headquarters. After all, they didn't know who might be eavesdropping. They at least knew now who might have spread the rumor, but they needed a plan before they could approach. Alina didn't care what their plan was, as long as she could go play at the festival. While she continued to work overtime, Jade offered to help out, but she was angry, knowing he probably was going to ask for something weird in return. He'd totally been caught. He was nervous, asking her out on a date during the festival in return for his help. She wasn't going to agree to that, not even a single day. However, he reasoned that at this rate, she wasn't going to even make the festival. Crap, she knew he was right. She couldn't have her cake and eat it too. She considered sacrificing one day with this insufferable guy, so she could be happy for the other 2 days. Even if one day made her so disgusted that she wanted to puke, that memory could be overwritten by the next 2 days. He was in tears, hearing her inner thoughts out loud, wondering if she really hated him that much. But she agreed to his proposal, lighting him up. She had no choice, and didn't want him to get the wrong idea. She'd work together with him so she could finally enjoy the festival. 5 days before the festival, Alina is grumbling about the rumors of a Dia skill granting relic from a secret quest. She planned to kill the guy who spread the rumor with her own hands. Jade was nervous, seeing how pumped up she was. Alina wondered why they were dressed in disguise, especially since Lulu looked like a walking shield, and we learned that the rumors usually spread to novice adventurers, so that's what their disguises were for. They arrived at the C-Class dungeon for beginner adventurers, the Forest of Eternity, and took their first stop at Mossy Rock Lake, a famous rest area amongst adventurers. The eyewitness accounts of the rumor spreaders were concentrated in this area. Sitting down, Jade pointed at a mossy rock where people played a game swimming over there and back. He unfortunately couldn't bait Alina into swimming over there, but Lulu began to enjoy themselves right away. While they were having fun, all Jade could do was imagine Alina in a swimsuit. But she didn't like that, so she tossed the pervy Silver Sword leader into the lake. In the evening, the Silver Sword members reminisced, not having chatted around a campfire since Lulu had undergone special training. Alina was confused, having heard Silver Sword only accepted strong adventurers. But at that time, Lulu's secret skills had just manifested. Back then, she'd get startled by the sudden appearance of monsters, causing her to fall and heal herself afterward. But now, the party members saw her as a reliable healer. She remained humble, while her friends told her to continue doing what felt natural. Jade then sensed others nearby, so they put up their hoods as they got approached by Heights and his party. Sitting down with them, Heights then asked if they could become stronger in an instant without training. Would they want to try? Jade egged the man on, and so Heights brought up these secret quests. The keywords were triggered, so Jade drew his blade at Heights. Heights' party was surrounded as well. Jade tried to interrogate him, learning he had heard the rumor from someone, and that's when one of Heights' men attacked. The man got knocked away quickly against a tree via Alina's warhammer, and just the sight of it made Heights nervous. Alina went for another immediate attack. However, with Heights' Sigurth Mover, a spatial teleportation skill, they escaped safely, leaving only the red-headed adventurer behind. Lulu knew this one-eyed, one-armed adventurer as Aiden. He was an old friend of hers. When he came to, he suddenly started chastising her, calling her a murderer, and warning the party if they kept her around, they'd die eventually, saying she was the killer healer who could abandon her comrades without batting an eye. Alina didn't care though, because her mission was to kill any rumor spreaders who were preventing her from enjoying the festival. So before Aiden could expose her dark past, Alina smashed! Now 4 days before the festival, Ifo Counter was still swarming with adventurers. Alina already knew someone was still spreading rumors about the secret quest, but they still couldn't put an end to the chaos right away. Lila was more baffled to see Jade helping out with their overtime work though, and that he handled everything perfectly. So, he candidly explained he was helping in exchange for a one-day date with Alina at the Centennial Festival. Lila was taken aback. She was so happy. Alina was no doubt a beauty, but kind of lacked a feminine charm. Even if a guy asked her out, she'd probably reject him with a fake smile. And always working herself to the bone, Lila was worried. Lila fantasized about Alina retiring and getting married, as if it were some Cinderella story. But Alina didn't want to marry this guy. Lila was alert to reality though. Jade was a handsome guy with a great body, and a regular on the wealthiest adventurers list. She couldn't think of a reason to not marry him. Alina stood up, adamant on the idea of there being some pleasures money couldn't buy, like desserts after hard work and late-night indulgences the night before your day off. Alina wasn't a frivolous person who wanted to live off other people's money. Hearing this, Lila wondered why Jade even liked Alina, and his answer was her stubborn nature and ill-fated side she had really drew him in. With it getting late, Alina yawned, letting Lila know she could take off before deciding to step outside for a small break. Jade then told Lila he'd stay with Alina until she was done working. Lila was surprised hearing his dedication. So, She brought up how kind Alina really was. Not only did Alina help her out, but she often always worked overtime with her. Alina's issue is she was too used to doing everything on her own. She wanted Jade to support Alina no matter what happened. Lila then got up, not wanting to be a third wheel in their love nest anymore, so she ran off, while he believed he needed to get stronger. At the Adventurers Guild audience hall, the members discussed how the Executioner defeated Dark God Sila, but they didn't know she could defeat the rest of the impending Dark Gods to come. They tried to ascertain the identity of the Executioner from Glenn. However, he refused to discuss it, telling them the Executioner was a man who wanted to live a peaceful life. In her bedroom, Lulu Lee was having restless sleep. She saw herself running as Aiden called her a murderer, asking why she didn't treat them over and over. She bumped into Jade, calling her a murderer with a distorted voice before falling over. And seeing the rest of her team, she screamed, waking up, panting and sweating. Walking the streets with Lo, she asked him if he wanted to know why Aiden called her a murderer, but he simply told her that kind of thing wasn't important. Reaching the guild headquarters, she suddenly shouted that what Aiden had said was true. Aiden was the tank of the first party she joined, and at that time, her Sigurd's skills hadn't manifested yet. Lo was finally willing to listen. That day, her party arrived at the boss's room for the first time. They were so happy, they accidentally got carried away, challenging the floor boss directly. In the end, everyone fell one by one. The Black Mage and the Swordsman were gravely injured and near death, but at that time, she was still inexperienced with her magic. If she used all her magic power she had left, she could have saved one of them. But she couldn't choose, so she ended up healing the two remaining half-heartedly, and they both died. Lo now understood why they called her a monster, but back then, she wasn't strong enough. He pointed out that a tank who couldn't protect his comrades and an attacker who couldn't defeat the boss were also at fault. Lulu Lee still couldn't take blame away from herself though. To this, Lo then asked what if he was a murderer too? Would she still be in a party with him? Lulu Lee quickly answered that he probably would have had a reason for it and would still trust him, causing him to smirk, because that's exactly what he was doing for her now. Rather than what Aiden had said, he trusts what he sees in her right now. Making it to the training area, they watched Jade use his skills until he passed out. In the infirmary, he explained he was trying to use two skills at the same time. If he could activate Sigurd's wall and blood at the same time, he'd be able to boost his power to an unimaginable level. Lulu Lee scolded him for putting so much strain on his body. The researcher, Shelly, then entered, observing the second stage of using two skills at once should be hitting Jade soon. He was totally being treated as a guinea pig. In the third stage, he should experience anomalies like confusion and sensory distortion. Continual use would cause him physical damage where he could die from shock or bleed to death. Shelly wanted him to continue to be good research material, which was probably why she was an authority on skill and relic research. She then showed them the Dark God's heart. At first glance, it just looks like a black rock, but the actual reason it is black is because it's filled with countless magic sigils. Dark God Sila could only use 3 skills. The number of souls he consumed was probably equal to the number of usable skills. Shelly was elated at the idea of humanity being doomed with the arrival of another soul-consuming Dark God. Other than that, the only other intel she had was the man spreading the rumors of the secret quest wore a dark robe. The day before the festival, Alina jumped up in excitement after finally being caught up with work. There was no bonus period for adventurers this year as a penalty for those who ignored the warnings and got led by the rumor. So she had less work than she usually would. She had won, and Jade could fulfill his wish of going on a date with her. But he wasn't expecting early leisure time with Alina inviting him for a drink. They had a joyful feast, with Alina eating and drinking until she passed out. Jade was happy, telling her it was time to go home. And when she got up, she spoke in drunken words, telling Shroud she'd become a receptionist, and that she'd been waiting for him to come take quests at her counter, before quickly falling back asleep. Jade was distraught hearing another man's name, a misunderstanding since he didn't know Shroud was the adventurer who influenced her when she was young. At the guild headquarters, Jessica teased Glenn for making her wait. He was stern and serious, asking what she needed. So, she opened her chest, revealing the book to the secret quest. He didn't think it would be so easy to find. She wouldn't explain where she got it, since as an information merchant, she was bound to confidentiality. He later ordered his secretary to keep the quest in the underground library in the deepest floor of the guild's underground labyrinth. With the festival beginning, Alina was ecstatic, although Jade was getting emotional. Seeing her smile was enough for him to die with no regrets. He was surprised she was so innocent. All that overtime and the constant daily grind wore her down a little, but her real self was actually so cute. This made her embarrassed, so she turned it back to her desire to conquer this whole festival from the inside out. In the Adventurers Guild underground prison first floor, Lulu Lee was experiencing more trauma from when Aiden had called her a murderer. Lo thought she should stop progressing the dungeon to go enjoy the festival, but she refused. The reason why he was following her was because he heard she was going to see Aiden. He was concerned. What was she even going to say once she found him? Aiden was the kind of guy who believed his party wiped out because of a healer. No normal conversation could be had with him. Lulu Lee knew that, but felt if she had a better read of the situation back then, or if her Sigurd's skill manifested, maybe no one would have died. Lo tried to console her, reminding her that no matter what was in her past, they were her party now. And they didn't think of her as a useless healer. They certainly didn't think of her as a murderer either. She thought of Lo and Jade as very kind. They were always kind and warm. She was concerned that if she continued to team up with them, she might lose them one day from her incompetence. That's why this was as far as she was going to go. She felt gratitude for everything they did for her up to this point. Back at the festival, Alina was munching on beef and enjoying drinks. This was like heaven for her. Everyone was joyful around. She couldn't believe she was here. She finally earned and successfully reclaimed her freedom and dignity as a worker. Today, she was going to forget working overtime and enjoy herself to the fullest. Watching her chow down, Jade asked where all the food she ate went, since she was so skinny. She proudly replied that to relieve stress, she regularly binged on food and that strengthened her digestive system. And so next was dessert. They already had the main dish, and over by the main square, she heard they were selling an interesting dessert made of candied fruit. Jade was excited, knowing the main event of the first day was about to start, so he got up and offered his hand. The square was crowded, so he didn't want them to get separated. She tried to deny him, since that didn't matter, but he was serious. He'd been wanting to do this the entire time, but she was always carrying food with no free time for her hands at all. He wasn't going to miss this chance. She at first began to shut him down, telling him, "Who would want to hold hands with you?" But then remembered he so adamantly did what he could to help her get here with no work left over. She was red in the face. She felt bad. He wondered if she just had a stomachache and decided to run to get her medicine, but she stopped him, nervously telling him that without his help, she wouldn't be here. She squeezed his hand and thanked him, making him happy. Reaching the 10th floor of the dungeon, Aiden asked Lulu Lee if she brought her companion because she felt sorry for him. After he lost his comrades, Aiden wanted to become stronger from the bottom of his heart. He believed that one day, his skills would manifest and had faith that he could still be a tank with one arm. But one day, he heard she had joined Silver Sword. He couldn't believe a companion killer manifested Sigurd's skills and even claimed to be an elite adventurer. He laughed maniacally and told her that was the moment he stopped caring. He couldn't be picky about his methods. As long as he got a Dia skill, he'd kill her first and avenge them. Lo defended his party mate and took her away, leaving Aiden from his sounds of cell banging and calling Lulu Lee a murderer over and over. He later anguished on the floor, hating that they looked down on him. But in this moment of solitude, he accepted that he was in fact the true murderer. That's when Heights arrived with the keys, unlocking the cell as he explained Rakaid would be causing a ruckus at the festival soon. Their plan was to take advantage of that and escape. And now, their plans would come to fruition. Jade never thought this day would come. He was glad he persevered, while Alina uttered it was inconvenient to carry food with just one hand. They watched a jester suddenly freeze a crowd of people with an attack spell. This man was ruining her festival experience. Unforgivable. She summoned her warhammer and attacked immediately. Rakaid begged for her to hear him out, but she wasn't going to, knowing all her hustling through overtime was for nothing because of him. So she crushed him with all her might. By the prison dungeon, the guards overheard the commotion and left to see what was going on. That's when Heights met with Lo and Lulu Lee right at the exit. Lulu Lee was shocked to see Aiden was free as well, and on top of that, Heights had the secret quest in his possession. Opening it, the quest activated, describing the location as the Forest of Eternity, Mossy Rock Lake. The achievement condition was defeating all the floor bosses. Heights invited Silver Sword to join him in meeting the Dark God together, and teleported before Lo could inquire more. Alina lamented over the festival potentially being cancelled entirely. However, Jade cheered her up, letting her know it'd be resuming shortly. Since no residents were injured and the culprit was caught, she was overjoyed and thankful for the adventurer's capital having thick skin. However, Lo and Lulu Lee would come rushing over, and they explained what had just happened back at the prison dungeon. Jade was going to gear up, and he told Alina his party alone would be just fine. He wanted her to be able to enjoy the festival. She felt bad and stopped him. She decided she was going with them. She didn't want them to die. They grouped up at Mossy Rock Lake and found the hidden floor that was the true dungeon of the Forest of Eternity. They reached the boss's room, even before Heights' party did, and immediately went on the offense to prevent Heights from reviving the Dark God. But Heights knew they weren't going to be killed by Silver Sword, because if they died, their souls would revive the god. And the party wasn't prepared for one of Heights' associates to use Sigurd's offer and sacrifice himself. Aiden was losing it. Heights had told him the Dark God would grant them Dia skills, but Heights explained their true purpose was to help the Dark God gain even greater power. Jade then asked why Heights was so adamant on reviving the god, and Heights became apathetic, replying that one who benefited from skills and constantly took center stage wouldn't understand. Heights brought up how his skills' specialty was for running away. It was useless in battle, and as time went on, he was only seen as a burden. He laughed hysterically, questioning why skills even existed in the first place. They could only be bestowed unilaterally, leaving everything to fate. And whoever hit the jackpot became a winner. Those who didn't rotted away in a garbage dump. One day, a man in black appeared before him and told him he could destroy this unreasonable world in an unreasonable way by reviving the Dark God. Heights wasn't going to let anyone stand in the way of this new dream of his. Then suddenly, he found a hand piercing right through his stomach, and even falling to his death, he prayed for the god to end this world. A little girl stepped on him, calling Heights disgusting. The Dark God was two twins, Vienna and Fienna, who were excited to eat from the souls in front of them. Vienna summoned her bow, and Fienna followed. The party was shocked to learn the twins shared skills, but began to steal themselves. Vienna began to fixate on Jade's handsome looks, desiring his soul first, but Alina deflected the first arrow, feeling it was too weak to be that of a Dark God's. She then went to attack back, but Vienna blocked and turned to mush, giving an opening for Vienna to retaliate. But her arrow missed, and still, when Alina responded, she felt like her attack didn't land. The twins then began to regenerate, so Alina retreated. Dealing with the two as one who couldn't die, the party wasn't sure what to do. Jade assumed both of their god cores needed to be destroyed simultaneously to stop their infinite regeneration. Like the last Dark God, their goal was to consume more and gain more skills. Their desire was to go to the surface to find more fodder. Vienna's target was still the handsome Jade, so he decided to leave Vienna to Alina. He already knew there's no way he could stand up to the gods with his Sigurd level skills, so he had no choice but to try the secret technique he'd been working on. He used 4 defensive skills combined with his aggro ability, activating the composite skill, Milia, and this actually blocked the Dia skill. He then used Milia on his sword and struck Vienna right in the neck, giving Alina the opportunity to strike next. It took an intense toll on his body, but they seemed to secure the victory. Except, Vienna claimed she was just really surprised was all. She was angry now, feeling a little humiliated. Taking a shot at Aiden, Lo saved him and ran off. Vienna didn't want this to end, so she had her twin give up her stone. The two truly combining, they became a horrifying amalgamation of a monster, now calling themselves Vilfina. Firing her arrows, Alina tried to take one on, but her warhammer dissipated, leaving her vulnerable to a direct attack. Jade carried her to safety, where they observed the unusual wound. Lulu tried to heal it, but even magic didn't work. Vienna was smug, explaining the futility of their efforts. The arrow they shot was a skill that directly granted death. Even a slight scratch would cause anyone to die for sure. Jade refused to let Alina die. He grabbed his equipment and tried activating his composite skill again, but he couldn't handle it and fell over. He had to do something to stop Vienna from killing his friends. He thought about it, and called Vienna a failed creation. He actually got Vienna's attention, as he went on about the twins having half of a Dia mark on each of their faces. And even after merging, it never became a complete mark. Vienna tried to keep her sister calm, but Jade kept going, calling their bodies weak, and even merged. While their combat power improved, their intellect vanished. He called them not 2 as 1, but merely failed prototypes before the finished product was even created. Vienna was furious, and Jade tried to respond with his composite skill, coughing up blood before the attack. Lulu was trying everything with Alina. She felt inadequate and began to tear up while apologizing. Alina told her it was fine. She didn't want to lose anyone connected to her. To protect people she cared for, she'd fight to the death, no matter how much it hurt or how unbearable it was. Watching Alina resummon her Warhammer, Lulu thought more about herself. Despite her past mistakes, she continued to be a healer because she was frustrated, because she didn't want to be called a murderer forever, because she wanted to grow stronger. She offered to try healing Alina's wound once more, casting Sigurd's revival over and over, even though it strained her. She had her friend's belief in her thoughts, but she had to believe in herself as well, because this was her job. Outside, Lo tossed Aiden on the ground, telling him to get lost, because he'd only get in the way if he stayed. Aiden tried to blame the murderer again, but Lo told him he had no right to speak her name. She didn't run away from her powerlessness, nor did she run away from her duty as a healer. He grabbed Aiden's face, telling him not to show it in front of Lulu ever again. Lulu finally succeeded, but Alina had already passed out, and Lulu soon followed, while Jade could only directly take the next attack. Alina had viewed the Soul's Rest ceremony while she was still working. This was a ritual to mourn the souls of fallen adventurers. Some say it's to comfort the souls of those left behind. She didn't want to live a lonely life anymore, and picking up the glowing silver sword relic in her pocket, she knew she had to act. She threw her hammer to protect Jade, and now seeing that Lulu had succeeded, he could finally rest peacefully. Seeing Alina still alive angered Vienna, so she swallowed her sister's stone and became Vilfina again. Alina expressed her annoyance. She had been looking forward to the festival and had worked overtime every day. She'd never forgive anyone who took her festival fun away from her, be it a dark god or anyone else. She activated Dia Break, and no matter how many shots Vilfina fired, Alina evaded all of them and delivered a powerful blow that destroyed the dark god. The party made it out safely, with Lulu the last one to awaken. They had a deep moment, where she expressed she hated her own healing skill, but thanks to it, she was able to save the people that were important to her. And now, she could finally love this power. She wanted to keep working hard with all of them forever. Returning to the festival later, Alina wasn't expecting to see Jade again, but she was fine with him staying for a while. She gave him the flowers she wanted to light for the Soul's Rest ceremony, and explained it was for the adventurer named Shroud who she was pretty close to as a kid. She asked Jade not to die as well, but realized that was a little too embarrassing, so she made the excuse that he was so tenacious, she couldn't believe the monsters could kill him even if they tried. And he smoothly responded other than by her warhammer, he didn't plan on dying by anyone else's hands. With some adventurers arriving to greet them, they asked if the two were on a date. And Alina's response was that Jade forced her in exchange for something irresistible. Probably not the best thing to say for a public figure like Jade. The adventurers thanked Alina for all the times she helped them, and they cheered to her name. She couldn't believe people saw her that way. Her chest began to overflow with a burning feeling. She felt they lined up at her counter to make her deliberately work overtime, and shouted at them to line up at another counter the next time they saw her. She didn't want any more overtime. The crowd was overjoyed viewing the floating lanterns of the Soul Rest ceremony. Alina was a little confused, wondering why no one was crying, so Jade explained it was so souls ascending the sky wouldn't feel lonely or bound by sadness forever. The rest of the party came to hang. They wanted to celebrate making it out alive with an after party, convincing Alina even though she still had work tomorrow. Alina thought she'd feel even more lonely and sentimental, but with all these noisy people around her, she didn't have time to think about that. Another day in the dungeons, Alina was pissed at the spider monsters. Because those incompetent adventurers couldn't clear this dungeon, she had been forced to work overtime again. An arachne in its nest was incredibly hard to deal with. But not for Alina, who broke the dungeon wall straight through to the boss's room. Jade's party had never seen a strategy like this before. For the sake of clocking out on time, Alina destroyed everything. Lo never imagined these difficult monsters would be defeated by a receptionist who wanted to attend her newcomer training. Her purpose of attending it though was to get overtime out of her life for good. Her boss had discussed that their counter's overtime hours were much higher than others, and thus, they'd received a warning from the guild. Hearing they finally come up with a solution for this, Alina was ecstatic. But that joy was crushed by her boss saying each of them had to propose a business betterment plan, and the employee who proposes the most efficient one gets paid birthday leave. She was depressed now. She knew the guild master promised her he'd increase the number of receptionists, but it would take some time before the personnel changes were announced. In the meantime, she really wanted the birthday leave. Lila then showed Alina materials for the newcomer training, which listed instructor Rosetta Ruberry, the living legend who rebranded the unremarkable and undesirable receptionist and turned it into a super popular profession. Not only did she introduce cute uniforms, but she also proposed learning customer service etiquette and developed a manual. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say she laid the groundwork for the current receptionists. She even authored the bestseller, "If you want to be a receptionist, eat beans." None of that was important to Alina though. Instead, she valued Rosetta's administrative skills. One time, 3 new dungeons appeared and adventurers all went to the office, but she was able to handle all the requests on her own. Alina believed if she could learn the secret of her superb administrative skills, she'd never have to work overtime again, which is why she was out with Silver Sword, trying to clear up her overtime to attend the training. With Lulu Lee bringing up Silver Sword would be participating as instructors for the demo battle, Jade started to cry hearing Alina's disgusted expression from behind him, but she felt a stalker like him would stand at the back of the classroom and stare at her the whole time. He even agreed. The old him would do that, but now understood to get her to look at him, he had to change the way he acted. From now on, he was only going to do things that made her like him. This was his image improvement campaign. But the only thing she wanted was for him to breathe quietly for the rest of his life. Tough luck, Jade. The training was for 3 days and 2 nights. If he did anything weird, she wouldn't forgive him. And he was fired up. Attending the training at the guild headquarters, Jade overheard some of the staff call Alina cute, wondering if she had a boyfriend. Hearing them speak that way about her pissed him off, but he couldn't scold those guys or he'd ruin his image improvement campaign. He couldn't talk to Alina in front of everyone either, but he'd at least remembered their faces. They were statues of the current guildmaster's party. They were the Silver Sword of 2 previous generations and had risked their lives to conquer the Fortress of Ash. Time suddenly stopped, and Glenn thanked Alina for bringing back everyone alive. She didn't want thanks, but instead, for him to honor his promise to increase the number of receptionists. He was sweating a bit, realizing he'd completely forgotten, but he'd take care of it as soon as he could. He then took off, hoping to count on her the next time they'd face a dark god. But she believed there's no way another one was gonna appear. With their guide announcing Silver Sword was going to perform the battle demo, the ladies squealed with excitement. And as Jade slayed the monster, they screamed. They were so excited over how handsome he was in person. They were practically hysterical. Introducing himself, they all cheered with hearts. But with Alina noticing he was noticing her, she gave a stink face, not wanting him to call her Miss Alina in front of everybody. He instead turned away, much to Alina's surprise. She almost forgot about his image improvement campaign. Finally, he wasn't pestering her for no reason. She felt more at ease, but could see he seemed somewhat sad. Reaching the old training building in the evening, the receptionists were frightened. It was rumored to be haunted. Alina paid the rumors no mind, completely unaffected. Even hearing Lila ramble on about the mysterious deaths of the renovation workers and their spirits unrested still causing trouble. Entering their room, the window creaked from the wind. They suddenly heard an eerie knock from outside their door, and seeing the shadowy figure, both Lila and Lulu Lee screamed. Lulu was frightened and wanted to share a room with Alina because she was afraid of ghosts too. In the past, when the guild headquarters was still a dungeon called the Fortress of Ash, it was a widely spread rumor that this place could connect to the afterlife. A small party had gone into this dungeon, but the members who were adventuring together suddenly disappeared, and there were no traces of monsters attacking them. No one could find them, despite searching the whole dungeon. Those left behind speculated that maybe they were taken to the afterlife by something. Even now, people still claim to have seen a mysterious silhouette in a black robe, or that they felt a strange aura of sorts. Lila screamed it to Alina, but Alina was pretty much unfazed. She was someone who worked overtime late at night to begin with, and if she won the prized birthday leave, she was going to enjoy her special birthday program. First, she was going to sleep all the way until noon. Then, eat something light and continue to lounge around. After that, she'd go back to sleep. And when she was hungry, she'd have an amazing dinner. The friends criticized her for only eating and sleeping, but Alina was serious about escaping the waves of a harsh society and enjoying a comfortable break being essential for working adults. The girls then pointed out that Jade wasn't coming up to Alina like he usually did, and wondered if they were fighting. Both Alina and Lulu Lee explained his image improvement campaign, And now Lila was poking at Alina, saying she might secretly be lonely. Alina remembered his sad expression earlier, and she calmly told them they went back to having the appropriate distance an adventurer and a receptionist should have. Lila was disappointed she wouldn't be getting any more love stories, but took the time to express her love for Lord Executioner. She rambled on about his strength and mystery, and now Luli knew she had no idea about Alina's secret. In the boys' room, Jade received intel from Lo about the mysterious man in black, the man who leaked the existence of secret quests to adventurers and incited them, all to revive the Dark Gods. Lo proposed the idea of a traitor. Before, it was Heights who stole the secret quest from the underground library. His skill could only be used to escape, which means he couldn't use it to infiltrate the library. Only a handful had actual access to it. The next day, Rosetta's course began, and for Alina, this lesson was war. By the end, it was Q&A time and Alina was jumping to ask the very first question. She asked how to solve the problem of receptionists working overtime. Rosetta smirked, seeing Alina was no newcomer. Alina was ready to hear the secret, and to say goodbye to working overtime forever. Rosetta's secret formula for overcoming overtime: work roughly 100 overtime hours per month, including working on holidays. Unbelievable. Rosetta could tell Alina hated working overtime, so she claimed the magic to stop hating it was to imagine the happy faces of her customers. Alina was in shock, but Rosetta was virtuous, believing Alina's suffering was the result of seeing work as work. She needed to see work as her lover. Whether she was sleeping or awake, she needed to always think about work and her customers' affairs. Once she reached that level, she'd be liberated from the concept of labor and become a super receptionist. Oh my gosh, Rosetta's a workaholic. Lila brought Jade to a depressed Alina. Her soul was completely crushed and in shambles. She was actually kind of relieved to see his face now, because it was still better than being crushed under the weight of knowing now that overtime was eternal. Attending another day of class, Alina sighed, hearing some of her classmates gushing over Jade. Turning her head to the window, she spotted Jade waving at her, but was surprised to see he wasn't calling out to her. He normally acted so familiar, it drove her nuts. Now, she wouldn't have to wear her business smile around him, put up any kind of front, or even hide her real feelings. Well, wait, what was she thinking? Why did she feel so distressed over him? During his walk, Jade thought back to his court hearing with the Adventurers Guild. Some of the men were demanding he bring results, so that he didn't sully the name of Silver Sword. However, Glenn defended him, telling the fellow leaders to give Jade more time. Jade wanted to have faith, just like Glenn had faith in him. He came upon Glenn, staring at the statue of him and his old friends. When they had conquered the Fortress of Ash, they all died, except for him, including his healer and daughter, Lynn. His daughter had taught him something very important, and he was proud of her. Jade had forgotten what he wanted to talk about, making the guildmaster laugh. Then, Glenn gave him encouraging words, letting Jade know his strength was real, even while Alina dealt with the Dark Gods using her Dia skills, and that one day, he'd most likely become a guildmaster. After Glenn left, his secretary, Feely, came by asking for him. By the disheartened look on Jade's face, she could tell he suspected Glenn of being the mysterious man in black who was telling people how to revive the Dark Gods. She assured him that wasn't possible, because Glenn was the kind of man who would use his skills to run away when too much annoying desk work started piling up. He wasn't always the man he was today. He used to be cold, selfish, and stubborn. Some even say he lacked a human soul. What changed him was his daughter, Lynn. She was an orphan, and raising her forced him to mature. But then, he lost her. After training, Lila was relieved it was finally over, even though she slept through the whole lecture. She had no idea how Alina stayed awake through it all. So, Alina explained her trick, closing one eye at a time. You can close left, then right. Doing this, one could awaken from an onslaught of sleepiness. But I don't really believe that. With their stomachs rumbling, Lila left to go check on if there was any room in the busy cafeteria. That's when a senior staff member came by to try to get in with Alina. He was pushy and wanted to spend time with her. And luckily, Jade arrived to save the day. He knew this was one of the new guys who showed up to ogle the receptionists yesterday. He threatened to take it to the man's boss, which got him to leave. Taking his leave, Jade warned Alina to be careful when she was alone, and she actually stopped him, even thanking him for helping her. She's surprised he still wasn't turning around. Any other time, he wouldn't leave her alone. Then she'd be able to complain about him. She then burst out that his image improvement campaign was having the opposite effect, causing him to look back. She claimed it threw her off to see him acting distant, and she didn't see why he couldn't just act like he always did. He was surprised to hear that she didn't mind, making her turn red, because she did, but she was fine with it. She called it creepy when the guy who's been pestering her non-stop suddenly acted like he wasn't even there. She told him to go back to the way he was, because he was making her feel bad. He apologized, and was glad she was being honest with him. They nearly had a romantic moment, but then Lila ruined it by running in with her sandwiches from the cafeteria. There apparently still wasn't any tables open, so she gave up and bought food to bring back. She then asked Jade about the rumors of a Reaper that appeared in the training hall. When mentioning this Reaper wore a black robe, Jade became alerted, wanting any updates on the potential situation, and told them he'd also stay in the training hall tonight as well. They then overheard some guys talking about a new dungeon that appeared with over 7 floors. A huge dungeon. The receptionist desks were so overrun, they were about to blow. Both Alina and Lila were horrified, knowing once training was over, they'd be going back to a bloodbath. Alina thought they were at least safe for now, until someone came by to deliver onto her a full counter's unprocessed quest applications. The counter chief said, "We'll never get these done in time, so take some of the load for us." Alina was so furious they had to work overtime during training, she cursed her chief out, which quickly turned to sadness now that her little sliver of peace was gone. However, the two gained determination to get it all done tonight, and Lila began to place good luck salt around her desk to protect her from evil spirits. Elsewhere, Jade was collapsing from overuse of his compound skill, so his party mates got him to finally take a break from training. They discussed the idea of the Reaper being the man in black. Heights had let someone in to steal the secret quest, so the Reaper could be the very culprit. Lulu Lee couldn't believe they suspected Glenn of being the man in black. If he wanted to resurrect the Dark God, why would he let Alina kill them? Glenn wanted to believe in him. Jade wanted to believe in him, but knew that once they caught the man in black, everything would make sense. While researching the Dark God's remains, Shelley made an incredible discovery. She at first wondered why the ancestors gave the relics that were Dark Gods human forms, but then realized it'd be faster to remake humans that already existed into relics. She suddenly noticed the man in black standing behind her, and before she could react, she was knocked out. Lila was freaking out because Alina had knocked out during their work. With the strong breeze and lights flickering, she got even more scared. She really tried to wake up Alina, and was scared, seeing someone was trying to open their door. It was a ghostly version of the staff member from earlier saying, "I hate you," over and over, causing Lila to throw her salt at him, which finally got Alina to wake up. The ghoulish man got their papers to float, and Alina was irritated that even a ghost would try to get in the way of her work. She furiously slugged the man, exorcising the ghost. Exhausted after training for the evening, Jade thought back to Alina telling him not to die. He needed to get stronger. Alina and Lila suddenly showed up, and the gang wandered together looking for a ghost monster. Jade described what Alina had likely seen, a white shadow that flew out of the man and disappeared. Only monsters died that way. Lila then stopped, pointing out the man in black, and Jade's party chased after him. When they finally caught up, the man activated a switch, sending them all falling beneath. Alina's head hurt a little getting up, but probably not more than Jade's back, since her butt was on top of him. However, he couldn't help himself but joke he wouldn't have minded being pinned under her a little longer, which she didn't take well. Lily at first believed this to be the work of the Reaper, but Jade was more realistic. He surmised that this was probably where the missing adventurers, the Reaper, had claimed had gone to. This place was likely a hidden floor of the Fortress of Ash, meaning high-level monsters were prowling, and regular adventurers separated from their party likely wouldn't make it back alive. This deeply upset Alina. Not the idea of any dangerous monsters, but this potentially massive 7-floor dungeon that was probably going to trap her in overtime hell for weeks. She was going to kill someone for sure this time, and Jade couldn't believe that this was the only thing that worried her. Alina began to break down. Her hope of escaping overtime was shattered by the ultimate workaholic, and a ghost interrupted the overtime work that was dumped onto her. The man in black appeared suddenly, so the party readied their stance. Jade couldn't even sense the man's presence. It was as if time had stopped and the man teleported here. But taking off his mask, everyone was shocked to see the man who had been behind everything was in fact Guildmaster Glenn. Jade had been suspicious the entire time, but in Glenn's mind, Jade was still naive and his thought process was often too wishful. Jade wanted to know more, but instead of explaining it with words, Glenn wanted to show them. Jade knew it could all be a trap, but he decided to have the party proceed forward anyway. When Glenn was still Silver Sword's leader, he tried to leave the girl who had become his adopted daughter to an orphanage. His master denied his request, telling Glenn this was important training for him to have a family, training to love and be loved. He called Glenn too straight-laced and cold. Glenn didn't understand the point then, but when Lynn reached out to him, letting him know she was hungry, his world began to change. The party arrived at what used to be a boss room. This was also where the Silver Sword from 2 generations ago, his party mates, lost their lives. They were just one strike away from defeating the boss, but in a mere instant, they were all burned to a crisp. He was the only one fortunate enough to avoid the flames and survive. And then, he learned a way to bring people back from the dead. He rebuilt the Fortress of Ash into the guild headquarters, keeping its underground level a secret. Also, he could keep this place exactly as it was all those years ago. He was going to turn back time using the power of a Dark God's core. This was why he became guild master. When he first found Alina, he gave thanks to the gods because he'd been waiting decades for someone strong enough to defeat the Dark Gods. He was convinced of her abilities during their first interaction. He used Rufus and Heights and anything else he could to fulfill his objective. Jade slugged Glenn right in the face. He was pissed at Glenn for putting Alina through so much. Alina stopped Jade, just to get some simple confirmation on Glenn's true intentions. Taking off his glove, the Guildmaster explained the true essence of the Dark Cores. Implanting the core into a human's body turned them into a Dark God. They were not created by the ancients. All Dark Gods were once humans, who had casted their humanity aside. And now that the core was in Glenn's hand, he could obtain great power in exchange for his soul. His sole mission? Bringing his daughter back. He needed to tell her something he couldn't because of his foolish pride back then. He had told Lynn he was going to a dangerous dungeon, and that if he didn't make it back, she could take the money in the drawer. She told him to stop acting like he was reading his will every time he was going to leave for work. She was happy as long as he came back alive and well. She told him, "I love you, Dad." But he didn't know how to respond. She knew as an adventurer he could die at any time, and wanted him to know she loved him. She asked him if he felt the same. Instead of answering, he asked her why she didn't hate him. He told her he only took her in because his master forced him to. But even then, she didn't take his harsh words to heart. She knew what kinds of people were actually scary. When she lived in the alley, no one even looked at her. Even when she was cold, hungry, and begging for help, everyone walked by and pretended not to see her. But Glenn stayed, even if he kept grumbling and trained all the time. Him just looking at her and talking to her made her so happy. Hearing her say loving words again, his mouth went agape. He never answered, simply telling her he was going. Alina felt the weight of Glenn's reasoning for all this. He then gave Alina his final wish. He knew by letting the Dark Core consume him, he'd likely lose his will. He wanted Alina to kill him if that happened. He casted Dia Chronos, which caused him to ache in pain. Alina could now see him crying over his dead daughter as she faded from his arms. That's when a man had reached out to him, bestowing the means that could help him escape his grief. As Glenn's body transformed, he lamented, wondering why he couldn't go any further back in time. Alina summoned her hammer, attempting to smash his arm, but he evaded. He wanted to try one more time. Alina tried to reason that even if he did bring his daughter back, she wouldn't be happy if he was dead. However, he didn't care. No matter how bloodstained his hands became, even if he strayed from humanity's path, as long as Lynn could live with a smile, he'd give his life away. He casted Dia Chronos again, but was saddened, only bringing back his daughter's burnt body that crumbled once again. He lamented, but that was short, because the core was consuming his soul. And now that his will was gone, he only desired to consume human souls. He casted Dia Chronos, freezing time so he could dive directly at Alina. She tried to retaliate, but he just appeared in front of Lulu Lee. Lil tried to protect her, but just ended up getting kicked away. Then, Lulu Lee took a direct punch from the Dark God Guildmaster. The god could feel he hadn't attained full mastery of his body yet, meaning the core probably hadn't fully awakened. Jade could see that even from a distance. Despite Glenn having more than enough power to kill both Lo and Lulu Lee, he chose not to for some reason. He suspected Glenn's consciousness might still be in there. If they could just destroy the Dark God's core, they could get the old Glenn back. It could also kill him, but Glenn was willing to stake on that. Jade knew Glenn was going to target him first. The master always defeated the weakest and worked his way up. He went in, trying to give Alina an opportunity to get in, and Glenn harshly beat him down. Since Glenn could stop time, Alina couldn't see the motions that preceded his attacks. She couldn't evade them reflexively either. There were no openings for a counterattack. She also found herself getting thrown around and underfoot of the new Dark God. Jade waved Glenn off, and Glenn uttered, still as uselessly tough as ever, I see. Alina now knew Glenn still had his memories. Jade tried to cast Sigurd's Beast, but it was worthless against Glenn's might. Glenn then explained the reason he didn't kill Lo or Lulu earlier was to make Jade think he'd be unable to kill them and for Jade to let his guard down. Jade knew it. This man was still Glengarria. Cunning, never showed off, never underestimated, as cool and collected as a machine. He was the ultimate attacker. Jade and Lulu then activated their composite skill, Futore, giving Lo the opportunity to shoot fire with his Ignis spell. Glenn then went for a strike, but was surprised finding Jade was easily evading now. At this moment, the present and future were overlapping in Jade's eyes. He had faint hints of information created by Glenn's movement, and that was picked up by Sigurd's Beast. It felt like the massive amount of information was burning his brain, but Lulu Lee's Sigurd's revive was keeping him sane. He dodged again, giving Lo and Alina time to strike back. Glenn's back was against the wall, but he managed to freeze time right before Alina could finish him. Alina broke through the time freeze. She disarmed him, completely unaffected by Dia Chronos. She was prepared to crush him, but stopped to hear him tell her he could reverse time and bring back someone she longed for, as long as he ate all the humans here. He could see her past, and could tell she felt lonely having lost someone she cared about. She responded she wasn't lonely though. She worked her hardest the only way she knew how, because she didn't want to feel the pain of loss again, and now pointed back at Glenn. She called him selfish for only wanting to revive his daughter, but weren't the memories of the life he had with her just as precious? For her, for Alina, the memories gave her the strength to live, strength to get up in the morning when she'd rather go back to sleep, strength to work a little harder, even if she hated overtime, the strength to face forward, just a little bit, the next day. She told him he needed to try treasuring his memories of his daughter a little more, but most importantly, she wasn't going to let him forget his promise to set her free from working overtime. And knocking his arm off, Glenn was free from being a dark god. He agonized and apologized to his late daughter. He wished he had protected her and cherished her smile more than anything back then. He wished he had told her, I love you, just once. Things returned to normal in Alina's life, and now she was buried in overtime thanks to that massive dungeon. With Jade coming by, she made it clear she was busy, and he knew that, which was why he waited till after her window closed. He came to tell her Glenn woke up. Meeting with him, he asked why they didn't kill him. He had regrets that weren't going away, but also, he had nothing else left to try to bring his daughter back. He couldn't fully activate the Dark God's core, so now he could only live as a human. Still though, he acknowledged he used the position of guildmaster and so many adventurers for his own gain. If he had died, he could have at least redeemed himself. Alina told the trash master to quit crying. He had a promise to her that was more important than his life. She wanted him to stop giving her the, is this really the time for that? Look, she had no other reason to keep him alive. He wasn't allowed to die until all her overtime was gone forever. And now, with enough threats, Alina surely got her message through to Glenn. Jade couldn't forgive Glenn for using Alina, but it's not like him dying was going to improve anything. They also wanted Glenn to get rid of Alina's overtime. And also, they wanted to know who told him about the Dark Gods. Glenn tried to say the person's name, but he suddenly started experiencing intense pain. Lulu Lee tried to protect him, but her spell was repelled. Now Glenn couldn't remember what the person looked like. Discussing what had happened, the team concluded the mastermind could probably use a Dia skill, and that Glenn was likely being used the entire time. Alina wanted them to stop the chit-chat though, pointing towards Lila and the mountains of paperwork. And Lila ran over, giving each of them their stack to work with. Drinking her pick-me-up, Alina wished she could have at least gotten time off for her birthday. Her business proposal wasn't accepted, and the winning plan was written as, those with a large workload should reach out for help, and those with time to spare should help them. She knew during busy times, no one had time to spare, meaning this was impossible to implement. Lila suddenly fell over, but refreshed herself with her executioner doll. Mr. Executioner was the only thing that could soothe her soul. Alina told her to rest for the night though, so Lila sprinted off. Circling back to the new proposal they talked about earlier, Alina felt if she shamelessly asked for help when someone wasn't busy, she'd end up owing them, and she'd be obligated to help them next time. Jade then took Alina for some fresh air, offering her a new guiding crystal. This one was particular, however. It didn't glow. He thought of it as a prayer for no one else to die. He wanted to give her this gift for making her feel bad with his image improvement campaign, and swore he wasn't going to die, or let his party members die either. He was determined to get stronger, so she'd never have to fight any dark gods, because he wanted her to smile, always. Thus, Alina took it. She knew Jade wouldn't die so easily, and she knew he'd give his life to protect his friends. And putting it on, the two smiled. He wanted to give her something even better on her birthday. Maybe a huge house. But she already had one. The only gift she'd ever want would be her clocking out on time. Back inside, there were still piles of work. There was no end in sight, all because of her boss. She swore no matter what, she'd clock out on time and clear the dungeon boss like she usually did. An expected ending for the series, I think. As much as I'd like to know who the mastermind is and how this tale really ends, I don't think this is getting a season 2. But if it does, just know I'll cover it. Subscribe to the channel for more, but for now, watch this next video. It's me, ComfyTea. I'll see you all in the next one.